Welcome, welcome, welcome. If you're new to my channel, my name is Laura, aka PerplexQT. And if you're a returning subscriber, welcome back. Welcome, welcome, welcome. If you're new to my channel, my name is Laura, aka PerplexQT. And if you're a returning subscriber, welcome back. Alright, got it. Got it. Hang on. Alright. We're here. We're good. Should be no echo anymore. Let me pull you up on YouTube. Doo-doo-doo. Alright. We're good. Let me put you over here. Alright. So much to say. So for those of you that were watching Dr. Phil with us on Twitch, I know that there are some YouTubers that are running Dr. Phil. I choose not to. I almost lost this channel because of Dr. Phil. To me, it's just not worth the strike. We can discuss it. I did take notes through it, but I ran it on Twitch just to be safe. Like I said, there's other YouTubers running it. Let them get a strike or shut down. Dr. Phil does not play. Let me stress this more. Dr. Phil does not play. Like I said, he even went after PewDiePie. He has no bones about taking people down. So, and he will take you to court. So, just so you know, I would not take that kind of risk. I went over to Twitch. It's gone off Twitch now, but like I said, I know there's other people in this community that are new YouTubers, don't really know how Dr. Phil works, but it's not something I would ever mess around with. Nope, never again. And if you don't believe me, you can go over to PewDiePie. He did a whole video about he couldn't believe Dr. Phil struck him like 3 times. So just want to let you guys know that. But like I said, if you haven't seen it, there are other YouTubers that are running it. Johnny, we just ran it on Twitch. So much to say. I really don't even know where to begin. Let me put a disclaimer on this. I am no expert, okay? I am not a, then she got away with it, Queenie. I don't know what to tell you. Let her get away with it then. I'm not taking chances. So, that's it. And to me, it's just not worth it. Like, what are you going to get? A bunch of subs out of it? It's just not worth it to me. I would rather be safe than sorry. That's all. So, Twitch is on there. I mean, we ran it on Twitch. I have to delete it on Twitch too because you'll also get a copyright. So, like I said, I would just rather be safe than sorry. That's all. So, thank you, Nikki. All right. So, I did take a lot of notes. I am absolutely blown away, a little dumbfounded, kind of upset, but I'm no expert. I'm not a body language expert. I'm not a behavioral analyst expert. I am not a fingerprint expert. I am not an expert in reading people. I did not go to college for it. So let me put that disclaimer on there. I am no different than you guys. I would love to interview the behavioral panel and find out why they thought about some of the things the way they thought about it, because I don't agree. And I think that they're removing a lot of factors that are actually really important. What I mean by that is, when I say factors that they're moving that are important are kind of like when you think of the police and the read technique. No 2 prisoners are alike. No 2 murderers did it the exact same way or had the exact same thought process. They're all different. Everybody's an individual. And circumstances behind that individual make a difference in how they react. Circumstances, nurture versus nature, their mental status, their mental capability, which is a huge one, their class status, all of that is going to play a part in what you see. I do not agree at all with some of their conclusions. based on Candace's mental state. To ask Dr. Phil if he felt the same way as, if he would have answered the same way as someone like Candace is fucking ludicrous to me. Because I wouldn't answer the same as Dr. Phil, but I also wouldn't answer the same as Candace. You don't know, like you can't ask a mentally ill person if they're going to answer the same way as a PhD. It's ludicrous to even think they would. Ludicrous. So drug addiction too. Yeah, I'm live right now, Cinnamon. So I can't for the life of me understand why they drew that conclusion. And that's why I'm saying I'm not an expert, but I have read enough and know enough. I have a degree in psych, but I look like I've studied cases long enough and over a long period of time to know this. And honestly, some of it to me is basic common knowledge. You're going to, what's the word I'm looking for? You're going to answer things differently depending on how you grew up, who you are. 14-year-old murderer is not going to answer the same as a 27-year-old murderer. Candace, and there wouldn't be a cop out there that would argue with that. So the techniques that you use on a minor are different than the techniques you use on an adult. The way you speak to them, that, you know, is this somebody that grew up in poverty? Is this a rich kid gone bad? You're going to pull things differently. So their conclusion, and again, the reason why I say I want to interview them, it may not be them. It may have been the editing. You know, like I would literally pay money to see that full interview that's not edited. Because for all we know, Dr. Phil, I mean, it is a TV show looking for ratings. Dr. Phil may be the catalyst that is just putting out the way it was edited and not the actual interview. You know what I mean? Yeah, the raw interview. I would literally pay to see that. No joke.
Mom, I'm going to Anthony's.
Hold on, what?
I'm going to Anthony's.
All right, have fun.
Thank you. Love you.
So, and vaping, and maybe that's what they want you to get the interview, like they want you to get the impression of, that it is all Candace and not Don, and that's why it was edited that way. I don't know. So, exactly, Mother Bear. Candace has been abused her whole life and hasn't had opportunities to grow and learn. I really think that Candace has the mental capacity of a 15-year-old. I have not sat down and spoke to her like the behavioral panel did, but I get the feeling that she has the mental capacity of a 15-year-old, 16, somewhere around there. She can handle pressure. She can handle a lot of things that Dr. Phil, for example, would be able to handle. So I'm going to grab some notes. What I might do, because it does fall under fair use, I may play a couple of little clips from Dr. Phil, but I know my rules. I got to keep them under 20 seconds, you know, like, but I could not play the whole thing. But that I can do. I can play little clips. So I'm going to give you my notes, and then we'll go through it. All right. So the behavioral panel believes that Don is holding back, editing his responses, and never finishes a sentence. So basically, Don's giving word salad. I don't think that's anything new to us. I think that every interview Don has ever done, he gives word salad. So that part was like, okay, we knew that already. That's a given. How do you respond to people who did this? So the behavioral panel asked Don, how do you respond to people who tell you, you know, that you and Candace are guilty? Instead of thinking that it was the police they were talking about, he looked at social media. They thought that was kind of odd. And they, you know, kind of felt like most people would look at what the cops think of you. However, Don is not I can't think of a famous child that's gone missing off the top of my head. Lisa Elway. Let's think Lisa Elway's parents. Well-to-do, middle to upper class, wealthy family, not on social media. Social media wasn't even really around when their baby was taken. So Don and Candace have been thrown into social media by choice and have been judged from every aspect of their entire life. Every word they say has been picked apart. They have been judged. They have gotten drunk. They've gone on panels. Their first interview ever was with Chris McDonough. He was their very first interview ever. And at the end of the day, what is Chris? He's a YouTuber. Social media. Facebook, social media. Everything they've done is social media. I do not find it out of the norm to think social media. Maybe that's because I'm a YouTuber. For the behavioral panel, in my opinion, and again, this is just my opinion, they're looking at it as that this is, they're looking at it as that they should be thinking of the police. No, they shouldn't. My first thought would be social media, because this is what I do all the time. Don and Candace have been judged. The cops haven't done anything. Don and Candace have been judged so heavily from social media. It does not surprise me at all that it comes from that his first thought was social media. That's not odd to me. From the amount of time that they have spent in social media, it's just not odd to me. It's perfectly normal, if you want my honest opinion. So, and I agree, they should have redirected the question. I totally agree with that, Angelique. I don't feel that Don's train of thought in that was wrong. I don't think his train of thought of that was odd. I think his train of thought in that was excellent, to be honest with you, and exactly where it should be. That's what Don knows. That's all he knows is social media. So I don't see anything wrong with that. So that's one point that I disagree with. We're going to get to all that, Cinnamon, that I disagree with the behavioral panel. And this is when I got mad and I stopped it. You can't teach people how to respond. Initially, they thought it was perceptive. And that's what they said. That initially we found him deceptive. But they never followed up with it. They never said initially, but. The fact that they said initially, not we found him deceptive, but initially we found him deceptive. They never said if that changed. But from what I know about language, when you say initially, that usually infers that later you thought differently. And Dr. Phil didn't say that. I was waiting for that part that said, well, initially we found that he was to be deceptive, but later on we felt differently. And Dr. Phil never showed that later on. That to me is deceptive because, like I said, behavioral panel is not going to say initially we found him deceptive, but never follow up with that either way. So I think that's something that Dr. Phil edited out, but I might be wrong, but I don't think I am. Like I said, I could be, but I don't think I am. Behavior experts shouldn't be allowed in court. I agree with that too. So that I would love to ask them, and maybe next time they go live I will, but they're a channel where you have to pay them to get your questions even answered. But that to me is just, it's very, very, it stuck out at me that there was never a follow-up from that initially. So one thing I did learn today that I did not know, that kidnapping is different than abducting is transactional. Abducted means she's gone. I did not know that. I can't definitively say that if someone says my daughter's kidnapped or abducted, I really didn't know the difference. abducted, she was taken. Kidnapped, she was taken. So call me an idiot. Call me, how do you not know the difference? But no, I didn't know there was a difference. Kidnapping or abducted. And I'm a college educated person. I don't think that anybody should look into that, as Don or Candace didn't understand that, because I didn't know the difference. You were abducted, taken, same thing. That I really have always felt like that. So of course, there's going to be people, how did you not know that? You're an idiot, blah, blah, blah. But I can openly admit I didn't really know there was a difference. I'm sure, like, technically there's a difference, but if I am speaking to somebody, if I am being interrogated, she was abducted, she was hit, I can intertwine them and not think anything of it. So to look into that, saying that she said kidnapped here, he said abducted here, to me, abducted is a fancier way of saying kidnapped. So again, I disagree with the behavioral panel and Dr. Phil on that, because I truly don't think that anybody should look at that from two very uneducated country folks. I don't want to say lowlifes because I'm trying to be professional here, but from two uneducated, down-home country folks that probably didn't make it through high school. Forget college. Just didn't make it through high school. So I disagree there. Don has been cooperative. The behavioral panel says that was the initially, but never followed up. All right, so now they turn to Candace. They said that she answered no 3 times. And on the final time, when they asked her, do you know who took Summer? Her head shakes no, silent no comes out, which they read as guilty. Okay. How many times have someone asked you the same question over and over and over again? By the time you answer it for the 100th time, you're like, no, whatever. We don't know the whole interview. We don't know when that took place. We don't know what other questions were asked before that. And let me stress again, I'm not an expert. I am not a behavioral panel expert, so I could be totally wrong. I am basing this on logic, experience, and what I know and what I've seen, and also a lot of innocent people going to jail based on these behavioral panel, behavioral panel experts, who everyone's not universal. So I don't know. And that part I'm going to play. I got to find it in a minute, but I want to go through this first. So I just don't agree with the way they are putting them in a ball that everybody's the same. Everyone that answers like that. You have to look at all the mitigating factors. You just do. You can't not look at them and base a judgment that everyone's the same. I can't go with that. I just can't. That's why I would love to talk to them about the full interview. They believe Candace is guilty or holding back or knows something based on her eye movements, based on a couple of different things. They say that she's pulling her eyes away, not sure what she should say. He is saying that they shouldn't be giving dumb answers like they are. Okay. So I'm going to play that clip. Let me find it, because to me it's kind of important to explain what I'm saying. I think the eye movements do say a lot. If the behavioral panel was going based on just their eye movements and their own body language, I would absolutely agree it could be universal. Just like when someone sits like this or stands like this, it's defensive. That to me is a universal body language that everybody has. And it doesn't matter what class you're from or where you're from or who you are. You're going to have that means defensive. And I can live with that. I can live with the fact that they felt the eye movements or that Don's heavy blinking meant something. I can go with that. Being Candace's state of mind, I don't know if I buy the quiet whisper means she's guilty, or maybe, and like, I would question a 15-year-old who's innocent and see if they give the same answers, or a teenager, 16, 14. See if they answer things the same way, because then you'll know if she's telling the truth or not. I remember Michael Crow interview. When he's asked the same thing over and over, I'm pretty sure he changes his demeanor after the third or fourth time being asked, and it gets quiet. I would have to go through a lot of interrogations to see if that's consistent with teens, but I think Brendan Dassey did the same thing. So, and we know Brendan Dassey's innocent. We know Michael Crow is innocent. So, being that she's got the mind of a 15-year-old, I look at a 14-year-old and a 16-year-old that went through the same thing, and they followed pretty much the same patterns, and I do believe both of them are innocent. So, it's kind of interesting. Cinnamon, I'm here. You shouldn't have a black screen. I'm looking right at it on YouTube. All right. Let me pull this up. Hold on.
Doctor.
All right. Hang on. All right. Brendan will help. Oh, God, Goldie, he's so not guilty. There was not even evidence. There wasn't even DNA in the story. Stop. Don't even go there with me, Goldie. Brandon is not guilty. All right.
Not the way it played out and everything like that. I mean, yeah, you always have questions, and I'd ask myself, but the way that it happened and her emotions and her state of mind.
What were the questions that you had?
I mean, I don't really have any. I mean, I don't really have any questions. I mean.
Okay, now, you guys know I'm highly involved in interrogation, deception, detection as well.
Oh, yeah.
And from a psychological standpoint, not paying any attention yet to any of the body language or any of the physiology of that, I heard him say yes twice and no 4 times in there. He was stammering, stuttering all over the place. What'd you make of that?
So for me, what I see is editing as you speak. You'll notice his eyes are dropping down to his left. He's having kind of an internal conversation about how do I answer this very complicated question. And I think he edits, he speaks, he edits, he speaks, and never finishes a sentence.
There aren't versions of the truth.
Correct. We were under the impression he was holding back little information from us at that point.
Okay, now this is important to me because we're trying to find this little girl. I don't care about anything else. I want to know what happened to this little.
All right. As I said, we absolutely know that Don is being deceptive. The question is, how deceptive is he being? Does he know something? Is he covering for Candace? We don't know. We just don't know what he's covering for. He could be high. I mean, that's another thing. We're dealing with drug addicts.
Little girl. I wouldn't be doing this story otherwise. I'm just interested if Summer has been abducted and she's somewhere. Answers have to be found here. She deserves that. And so I'm really concerned. It's very clear to me that he is editing. That means he's holding something back, guarding something. He has knowledge of something that he's not just derping up.
And nobody is denying that. Nobody is saying that Don doesn't know something, but we don't know what it is. Is he covering for Summer or is he covering for Candace? They're not under the assumption that he's covering for Candace. I mean, that he's covering for Candace. They're under the assumption he's covering for something that happened with Summer. I don't agree. But again, I'm no expert.
Exactly. So the question is, what's he? This is.
All right. This is where it gets interesting.
So what do you say to somebody who says, no, you're involved, your family's involved? How do you respond to that?
Well, for 3 months, I spent on the phone for 3 months. I accepted every friend request there was. People want, well, your friend, we can for you. And, you know, for 3 months, I stayed on the phone day and night trying to find her baby because I figured Facebook's the best tool possible to help find her. And but there's this group on Facebook combating this the whole time. And
Okay, that's what I was talking about the social media. I don't think he's saying anything out of the norm. It should be social media. It should be that he is, Facebook is a huge way to find people. Look how many people have been found because of social media. Look at Brian Laundrie case, Gabby Petito case. She was found because of social media. I don't find that so absurd that he's talking about social media. So now that you guys are hearing it for yourself, you can understand what I'm saying. It just doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense that they're condemning him for social media. That's what he's pointing at.
we don't know who this group is or what they're up to.
Okay, now was he redirecting here, or was he just concretely answering a question?
I completely disagree with him here. I totally disagree with Dr. Phil. We know he runs in circles, but I got to disagree on it.
Yeah, so I'll let Scott answer last because he discovered this. When you ask this guy this question, what I was saying is, how do you respond to people who say you did this? Well, I expected, well, no, I didn't. But he doesn't. He goes on to talk about Facebook. In usual interrogations, we assume that is deceptive and...
This is not the usual case, though. And that's where I feel like the experts are 100% wrong. This is not usual. This is not, how it is. This is him. I don't see deflection either. I see him answering the question like social media.
He says, I associate kidnapping because of my background with trading the person back for something. If that's the case, that has meaning. If it's just he uses words.
Okay, I knew I forgot something. Kidnapping means you're trading the kid back for something. That is a legal term. That is something police know. That is something that you know based on your background. Don and Candace don't have your background. Don and Candace are not formally, they're just not formally in the realm of your education, your educational background. So to sit there and say that your background tells you kidnapping is different, the average person is not going to know that. The average person is going to look at it as, okay, kidnapping, abducted, same thing. They don't know that a kidnapping means something, you get something in return. That's a police term. So I think it's wrong that they hit them like that.
Words interchangeably has no meaning.
Yeah, and we don't know. But
I mean, these are three extremely educated, successful PhDs and master's degrees, high experts in their own right. They should know the technical legal difference between kidnapping and abducted. Don and Candace, not so much. And that's where I think this is bad.
this is the first time that in any of your interactions that he ever used this word. Okay, so that's the first time.
And they go on for 5 minutes about this. I don't want to play the whole thing, but they literally go on for 5 minutes about this. And in this particular episode, they never bring up the fact that Rose was also kidnapped or abducted or anything like that. Exactly, Goldie. They should know and understand culture backgrounds. And again, they're basing this on their well-educated master's degrees and PhD degrees on Don and Candace knowing the difference between kidnapped and abducted. Is this Dr. Phil episode older than the private interview, the behavioral panel? I think it's all the same. I'm pretty sure it's all the same. Thank you, Mother Bear. And they did. They went on for 5 minutes about this.
Thing that we collectively look for in the business. Guilty knowledge means something. So,
okay, he keeps saying in his business, in what they do, and people, I would give a different answer than Don. Obviously, we grew up differently. But I'm not going to know the difference, kidnapping and abducted. I may say the same thing. Maybe that's why some innocent people are sitting in prison, because they don't understand the legal term kidnapped and abducted. Never know.
we were suspicious of him, of course, and we developed a relationship with him that caused the second interview to occur.
At this point, he's cooperating.
Yes.
Yes.
And he's been cooperating throughout.
Yes.
Okay, Dr. Phil just did the exact same thing as they did initially. At this point, he's cooperating. That implies that later on he's not cooperating. But Dr. Phil doesn't say that. Dr. Phil says at this point he's cooperating, and he's been cooperating. That's a play on words and doesn't make sense, because again, that implies that he's no longer cooperating. And that's not true. Don has been cooperating with everyone. So I don't understand why he put it like that, other than to give the impression that they're no longer cooperating, which is false.
Sometimes, too.
Okay, the behavioral panel went to Tennessee, so this was done before they went to California. Yes, the interview was done before California, but he's using the interview from Tennessee, I believe. I don't think this was... Maybe it was two separate interviews. I don't know. I can't say.
His detriment.
Yeah.
For sure.
With like social media and that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, there's Candace. And
All right, let me get through this.
Nowhere in sight. She was just gone.
it's been almost 4 months.
Okay.
Head shakes no still. The voice doesn't even say anything. A silent no comes out, and then she adjusts.
We call that fading facts.
Okay. Then she gets out a weak no.
No.
You hear strong no's to the first two questions, but then when you say, do you know? It's like, no.
Yeah.
So what do you make of that?
So I immediately wanted to go further and push a little harder. And I will say, when you do what we do for a living, sometimes people cry and you force them to cry. So this immediately caused the next question.
Okay, well, let's take a look at the next.
In my opinion, a human behavioral expert should look at the difference between how people are raised, upbringings, why people see things certain ways. You're a human behavioral expert. You should know that not everybody falls into the same mold and everybody's going to be different. So I don't know.
Okay,
Is there any reason anyone near you would want to hurt you or your kids?
Not that I'm aware of.
What do you think should happen to somebody that did this? To the person that did this, what do you think should happen to them?
They should be put away for the rest of their lives. I mean, they should be tormented, I think.
Sorry, guys. This to me is a really, really important part of this whole interview. And the reason I say that is, I'm not muted anymore, but the reason I say that is if Candace would have turned around and said, you know what? I think the person that took Summer should be fucking tortured, should be hung out to dry, should be murdered and shot 50 times. The general consensus would be, what did Candace do to Summer? Because Candace is guilty. Candace is violent. This is a violent woman who thinks that people should be shot and people should be tortured. That's how people are going to perceive her, no matter if she gave a violent answer. I think she gave a safe answer that nobody could judge her. I think she gave a safe answer that she couldn't be held liable. You guys are behind if I'm still muted, because I've been unmuted for a while. So I'm not so sure that I hate the answer. I'm not so sure that I think her answer is wrong. I think her answer is calculated. I think her answer is thought about. I think her answer, I don't know. I'm not seeing it the way they are. I just think no matter what, she would have screwed herself. No matter how she gave that answer, she was going to screw herself. Either way. That's just my opinion.
Out of the gate, if I ask you what happened to Jordan, he was missing. What should happen to that person? Don't answer it because I know it would be bad. You wouldn't say, it wouldn't be a pause there. You wouldn't say put him away for a long time. He should go away forever. You would have a very extremely graphic answer to that. Exactly.
Yeah, it wouldn't take me 5 seconds to think about it. Give me 10 seconds in a room alone with him, and we'll be.
As a non-behavioral expert, I think her answer was calculated, but I don't see it the way they do. You're on national TV. Let's look a little further. You're already being chastised everywhere you go. You're already being judged all over social media. Now you're on a national TV show with millions of people watching. What kind of impression do you want to give off? Do you want to give off that you're a violent killer? Or do you want to give off the impression that you're going to follow the justice system and that person should go to jail for life? I'm sorry, but I think the way I see it is more logical than the way they see it. Think about the people that aren't calculated, that think that they should automatically say that you're guilty or something. They should be fucking shot to death. Now you're a violent person. And if you're a violent person and you think like that, what did you do to what did you do to Summer? Why? Since we saw your answer is violent, so what'd you do that made you violent to Summer? It was a no-win answer, and personally, I think she answered it the best way that she knew how.
If someone stole your dog.
Yeah, same answer.
That's the answer.
Same answer. But here, what you get is very different. Here, what you get is a pause and then a response.
The person that did this, what do you think should happen to them?
Okay, now, you said, what do you think should happen to them?
All right, let's assume that Candace is innocent. All right, let's just assume she's 100% completely innocent. The behavioral panel, I'm sorry, when she closed her eyes to pause, in my opinion, she thought about, how do I answer this? Or she could have been thinking, I want to fucking rip their goddamn heads off, but doesn't want to say that on national television. That is logical. Many people would probably pause and think about their answer because they are on millions of people. This isn't Don. This isn't Don who's all over social media. We don't know if she's on anything. We don't know if she's on muscle relaxers. We don't know if she's on anything that would make her pause and think, how do I answer this? I don't see any reason to look into that any more than it is. I think a lot of people would pause. Just saying.
First thing she does is close her eyes.
She's blocking.
We call that eye blocking or escaping. Right?
Yes.
We're getting away.
And then there's a pause.
Yep, she's thinking.
Watch your respiration.
Why is it so wrong to think about your answer before you go on national television? Millions of people are going to watch. Millions of people are going to pick apart every single word you say. So why not think about it before you answer? And like I said, she didn't. If she would have closed her eyes and had that same pause and said, I think someone should rip their fucking heads off, cut off their dicks, then I would agree with them that that's not an answer you pause for. That's an answer that, yeah, maybe, but she paused and then gave an answer that doesn't hurt her, except to these guys. Vanessa, let me stress this. Experts get it wrong too. Okay, remember that. Experts get it wrong too. We don't know what Candace is guilty of. I do not agree. Let me rephrase that. I have said from day one, back in June, that Candace has something to do with this. So don't mistake what I'm saying that I think Candace is guilty. What I think Candace is guilty of, that I don't know. But I don't agree with some of what they're saying, and I'm entitled to that. You don't know that, Vanessa. You absolutely do not know that. You are assuming. Many, many, many experts get shit wrong. Just saying.
Watch your breathing. You can't miss it.
They should be put away for the rest of their lives. They should be tormented, I think.
A lot here. We see her eyebrow go up there. She's not sure what she should say. Everything she's doing says I'm unsure and shouldn't be saying this.
100% agree with that. That part I agree with. That she is unsure what to say. She doesn't know what to say. Donna's probably grilled her what to say. She doesn't know how to answer questions. However, you're dealing with the mind of a teenager. So a woman that's been broken down. You can't forget that. Would you give these same answers to them if you were dealing with an adult? If you were dealing with a child. They are dealing with someone as a child's brain. She may look older. She may be 39 in her right. She may have 39 years of experience, but she's not a 39-year-old woman like someone here is 39 years old. Sorry, not sorry.
That's what we're seeing there.
For sure. And then you'll notice
If I ask you those same questions, your chin would jut. You would say that person needs to be put away for the rest of their life and tormented with no second guessing. The other thing you likely would not do is drift down into your right in an emotional state. We haven't seen a lot of emotion, but we see it here.
Okay, but we're going to see emotion here in just a second. She's talked about her disappearance. She's talked about
The guys who run organized crime around you worried about them at all?
Well, they questioned him, and he has an alibi, but,
What about those fellas that live around there in the cornbread mafia?
cornbread mafia.
That's what we call them where we live with this.
This was the most interesting part of the entire interview, was right here. I didn't even think of what they caught until they said it. I was blown away. I couldn't believe that they were right on this and was absolutely wow. So I'm going to let this play out, and it's mind-blowing to me what they caught. And again, I did not even realize this until they said it.
I have no idea. I've heard about some hillbilly mafia type stuff and everything, and all these different voices. And we've tried to steer clear from all these.
This is wired up, man.
I've tried to steer clear from all these people just as much as possible. And I think they've kind of seen us as targets because they have come up and stole our stuff. They come up in my shed and stole all of my mechanic tools at one time. When they knew we were gone. They knew me and her were together. Just hang on.
Have you guys put any kind of security or anything on your place?
No, we don't have any kind of security.
Okay, now this is significant to me for a lot of different reasons. We haven't seen a lot of tears from her. She's talked about Summer. She's talked about her disappearance. She's talked about looking for her. She's talked about her being gone. She's gone down into her room where she lives. She's picked up her toys. She's held her toys. She's looked at the bed she's not in. She's looked at trigger after trigger after trigger after trigger after trigger, and not a tear. But then you ask about the cornbread mafia, which is a colloquial term for a kind of organized grassroots crime syndicate in Tennessee.
That's correct.
Correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And let's see what happens when you ask. Let's pay attention to her.
What about those fellas that live around there in the cornbread mafia?
Cornbread mafia.
That's what we call it. So we started by trying to give her a little space with organized crime.
Yeah. And so Greg brings up organized crime, doesn't register anything with her. As soon as I say cornbread mafia, we'll watch the side of her mouth start dragging down. Because that's when the emotion hits.
Cornbread mafia.
That's what we call
Right there is when you say it.
I have no idea. I've heard about some hillbilly mafia type stuff and everything, and all these different voices. We've tried to steer clear from all these.
This is wired up, man.
I've tried to steer.
We call this insulating and running. She insulates, she starts crying, so we can't get to her. In other words, psychologically, we can't speak to her. And we see the emotion. As soon as I say cornbread mafia, right there, as we see that mouth start dragging down within seconds. And that's how long it takes to get into the brain, work around, do its thing, and say, hey, this isn't good. And it shows emotions coming from this that most likely shouldn't be there, which of course we'll discuss later.
I will also say, are the tears real? Absolutely, because you can't fake a snotty nose, just to use regular old terms. And what we know is that she is feeling pain. She is feeling emotion here that we didn't see any other place in the story. So this
But
feels...
we don't know what it is.
That's
It
right.
could be fear.
That's right.
It could be guilt. It could be fear and guilt. It could be any number of things.
We can't read minds. We read symptoms, as you say all the time. We read symptoms, but those are pretty clear symptoms.
Yeah.
Clear from all these people just as much as possible. And I think they've kind of seen us as.
All right, fair use, I got to stop it again. But they bring up a really, really good point. She didn't cry during Chris's interview. She didn't cry during Dr. Phil interview. She didn't cry on any interview. She cried during my interview, but she didn't cry on any interview having to do with Summer. These guys bring up this cornbread mafia and she loses it. Why? Why? Why did this term, the cornbread mafia, get her so upset, or the catalyst that started her crying? Something's not right there. That lends me suspicion that they may not be lying about that Summer was taken. The circumstances surrounding Summer taken are a whole new possibilities. There's thousands of them. But why get so hysterical over this cornbread mafia term? It doesn't add up. There's no reason for her to get so emotional over the cornbread mafia term. There's just not. And she lost her shit during it. That something's not right.
clients because they have come up and stole our stuff. They come up to me and stole all of my mechanic tools at one time. You know, when they knew we were gone. They knew me and her were together.
Okay, at this point, she wants out. She came there to help find her daughter.
Correct.
But you've raised the stakes to the point that, forget about my daughter, I want out of this room.
It's all about me at that point.
I can't do this.
Listen,
They're trying to help.
We're trying to
Yeah, we're trying to
It's
help.
not helping me.
it's okay. Let's give you a minute, okay?
They're trying to help, so they're not helping me.
That's right. That made us
They're
go
not
after-
helping me.
If she had said, well, how's this going to help Summer? Our response would have been different, but that
this
took us down the
happened,
path.
That's when
They're
we
not
go
helping me. Now, Candace refused to let our cameras inside the upper level of the...
I'm sorry, but here I think they're reaching. I do. I understand what she's saying. How is this helping me? But remember, this interview wasn't about Summer. This interview was interrogating them. So for them to look at it like there was something different in there, no. The bottom line is, hey, Jamie, the bottom line is they were saying, how is this helping me? Because you're interrogating them. You're not asking them questions about Summer. You're asking about them. So, yes, that interview is going to be her response. Remind you, let me remind them, we're dealing with a teenager's brain. A teenager's brain is going to say, how is this helping me? You're interviewing them. Their focus hasn't been on Summer. Their focus has been on Candace. So, in my opinion, that's why Candace responded the way she responded. Also, I have 3 teenagers here. So maybe it's easier for me to understand how a teenager thinks or how a teenager would respond based on having 3 teenagers. That's just my opinion.
Their home. We were able to obtain footage of Candace giving a tour inside that part of the house.
My brother is a liar.
Physical discipline.
All right, we already know Chris's footage.
With Don and Candace, and let's take a look at just the entire clip, and then we'll talk about it a little bit.
Live in a country, you don't expect that kind of stuff.
I'm not permitted.
No, I want to.
These are tough questions.
No, I'm being interrogated again, and I don't want to do this anymore. Yes, I am.
We'll stop. I want you to feel comfortable.
No, I want. Oh, and I want to go home.
I'm down.
I want.
Okay.
I don't know about you guys, but the first time I saw that before, I literally had tears. I felt for her. I felt for her. I got tears now. I felt for her because I felt like I was watching a teenager. I felt like I was watching a broken down teenager who just can't take anymore. Whether can take anymore due to her guilt, her not guilt, something. But I'm sorry, I see it differently. I do. She has manipulated phone calls to blatantly lie. Okay. You could say that, Pug Love, but I got tears when I watched that. There was something about that just hit me.
Okay, this is right after you asked about the Cornbread Mafia, and she had the response that we saw, and now she's fleeing the scene.
Yes.
So she starts, even before she flees the scene, by doing something that we refer to as the trancer in our true crime workshop, and that's making herself unavailable. Whether it's doing this or emotional or something you escape, she's already escaped. It's just a matter of getting out of that wire.
Yeah.
Interesting piece is contrast their body language. Don looks oblivious to all of this. He's trusting us and paying attention to us. She's not. It's an interesting.
Yeah, and at this point, she's down in her chin.
You ask them a question and they feel they're being threatened, you'll see that chin drop. It protects the neck. It's something that happens.
I don't know why I just paused.
They get very emotional. They lock up their throat.
Is protected by putting their chin down over the throat. And then typically in pre-confession, their body will open up, and that's when you close. That's when you go after them.
Yeah.
We wondered.
Now, when my producer asked the Wells for a tour inside their home to better understand what happened the day that Summer went missing, Candace refused. Then she changed her mind and let us into the basement, but only after they had time to clean it. But a month after Summer went missing, Candace did invite podcast.
All right. That's why they get into Chris's interview.
I don't remember. I don't recall if this was locked or not. I don't recall that. Okay. But I know I'm referring. But I know I did come out there and said, Summer, because sometimes she'll sit right here.
There was a tiny squeak to the door, and that was it.
That was all.
You couldn't hear that up those stairs, through that cubby hole, and around through that cluttered room with the television on?
No.
That's inconsistent with everything I'm seeing. Because everything I'm seeing does not tell me that I have a hypervigilant mom on my hands here. As I understand it, what Candace says is that they were planting flowers.
Yes, sir.
She had a piece of candy.
Yes, sir.
They washed her hands, had a piece of candy. And then she says she walked her up the stairs to the house, inside, handed her off to the boys for supervision, that the boys said she went downstairs. Candace went back outside to help her mother with her brace,
Yes.
and came back in, and all of that happened within 2 to 3 minutes.
Yes.
What she says.
I'm saying what she says.
Yes. Yep.
2 to 3 minutes. She called for Summer, no answer, and she immediately called Dawn on the phone and said Summer's missing.
I think she will tell you that she didn't. We got something different the other day. We heard that after she checked the house, she crawled around under beds, she did this, she did that. She put the boys out to look in the yard, and then she called on, is what we heard.
Okay. But she went on alert in 3 to 5 minutes.
Correct.
Psychologically speaking, I have to tell you that's inconsistent with everything I'm seeing. Because everything I'm seeing does not tell me that I have a hypervigilant mom on my hands here.
Okay, I want to address this for a second. I am a hypervigilant mom. I know where my kids are pretty much at all times, especially when they were little. I absolutely knew where they were at all times. If I was in a store, they were right near me. Like, Dayton was a runner. The twins weren't. The twins stood by my side. But if I'm in my house and the kids are playing outside, they have to be in window. Like, I have to be able to see them through the window, when they were little. And if they were playing in the backyard. If I have a fenced-in yard, I'm not watching them as diligently as as when we didn't have a fenced-in yard. When they were playing we lived in Eldridge, Iowa, and we didn't have a fence. Brad was in the process of building one, but we didn't have a fence. But we had a gym in the back, and swing set. And, I would only let them play in the backyard when I was in the kitchen where I could see them through the window, or in the summer, door was open, or I'd sit outside with them. But I'm talking like in the winter. If I'm doing, all right, guys, you can play outside for 15 minutes while I do dishes so I can see them. But Candace and Don lived in an area that, if you remember the drone footage, there's tons of open space that's their property. They raised 3 boys. For years they lived there. Nobody's going to get on their property without the dogs barking or something. Grandma's there. Grandma's got a thing there. There's really no reason for her to be so diligent on their own property when they've had boys there for years and never an issue. So what Dr. Phil is saying, I agree with, that she probably didn't do, bring the boys, hey, keep an eye on Summer, because they had such a large property. Why bother? Nothing's going to happen. So I agree with him there, but I can see why Candace would be afraid to admit that she went off and left all her kids in the house alone. That's the kind of stuff that I think she's covering if she's innocent, if she really didn't do anything. So that's where the stories and the lies kind of commingle with each other, because then they start covering for stuff that they don't realize they're not telling the truth. They're telling the truth, let's say, that she was really abducted, but they're lying to cover up their story that she may have walked away or done drugs with someone or whatever while they were on their own property. They said Summer used to play by herself. There's no reason in that property to think that she couldn't. There were 3 boys there. The odds of someone coming on their property to take them when you had all those dogs, you had all that ruckus, are slim to none. So, but I think she would lie about that so nobody would know that, yeah, she was, lackadaisical. So, I don't agree with that.
I have a hard time believing that she would walk her up the stairs and hand her off lovingly to 3 babysitting brothers, go back and help her mother, and be back inside in 2 to 3 minutes calling for her daughter. Just timeline doesn't work right. I don't believe.
Vanessa, what I'm saying is I absolutely agree with everything Dr. Phil is saying right now. 150% agree with it. No questions asked. Absolutely agree. It's undisputable. What he's saying is completely undisputable. I 100% agree with what he's saying. But that could be the cover-up that Don and Candace are doing. That could be where the lies are stemming from covering up the fact that she just left her kids alone. Covering up for the fact that she didn't keep an eye on her kids. They'll never get the kids back if that's the case. They're lying. They could, if she's innocent, their lies are stemming, or their cover-up is stemming from this particular story. That's where the lies start, but where do they end? So people automatically, like, if she would have come out and said, I was down at the end of the road doing drugs. I was in the shed sucking dick for dope. I was with my grandmother plotting out Don's death. I mean, who knows? But if she would have said that she left those kids alone for an hour, for 2 hours, and someone came and took Summer, that's a lie that she's trying not to get caught in. It may not have anything to do with Summer being taken as far as she's involved or that her and Don killed her. It very well could be she's covering up the fact that she left for an hour. She wasn't there. She doesn't know what happened because she wasn't there. She went to the store with some friends. She went to go pick up drugs. You're not exactly going to tell the police you left 4 kids alone for 2 hours or 3 hours, or she was having an affair with a 15-year-old hunter. There's so many lies that she could be covering up that people automatically assume she's guilty. And it could be as simple as she went out for an hour, but she can't tell anyone that. Those are the lies I'm talking about. She very well might be innocent in killing Summer, but she's covering up other stuff that's making her look guilty. Again, she may have left for an hour. She may not even be there when all this went down, and that's why she had to make up a story and Grandma had to cover for it. We don't know.
Believe she could get out there and back in 2 to 3 minutes. I don't believe she called for her in 2 to 3 minutes and went on alert in under 5 minutes and started a search. Or that she would call Don, and given Don's history with law enforcement, that his first reaction would be and given Don's history with law enforcement.
Look at that land. Okay? Look at this. All of this is theirs. I can assure you, I can 100% assure you that this is not the first time that Candace left her kids alone. I will 100% back that when you live on a property like this, Candace probably wasn't even here. She was not even here at the time Summer was taken. And this is an entire story made up to cover for the fact that she was not there. I don't know about Grandma or anything else, but I also kind of think that when Grandma took off, because grandma didn't want to get the heat or get caught in a lie, so she left. And now my theory has changed. And as I'm saying all this and after watching Dr. Phil, my story has changed. My theory has changed. Kind of. I now think that Candace could have been in the shed. Sucking dick for dope. But my latest theory is that Candace was not anywhere here. Grandma was not here. Candace took off and left 4 kids alone. Grandma is covering for Candace. So Candace and Grandma concocted this story by the time they got back, by the time Candace got back, by the time somebody got back. This whole story was now concocted. Grandma went to Wisconsin because the heat, they were going to ask her these questions 15 different ways. Grandma was afraid of those questioning because she was going to eventually spill it. So she took off. Rightfully so, she's allowed to leave. But when somebody as important as Grandma is in this case, meaning that important as Grandma, meaning she's part of this story, the fact that she left and their story changes, to me, leads even bigger possibility that my theory is correct. That Candace nor Grandma were anywhere in sight. Where they were, I don't know. But they could have been scoring dope, absolutely. And again, she may have still been in the shed, but if you think about all of their 411 calls, I don't know why I say 411, all their 911 calls, it lends credence to the fact that she wasn't anywhere near this house, and neither was Grandma. And that's the lies that they keep covering up. That's the lies that she can't handle. It's possible that she was with someone from the lawn chair mafia. Yeah, that's it. She was with someone from the lawn chair mafia. She was with someone from the cornbread mafia. Maybe that's who she buys drugs from. Maybe they told her that, maybe Don owed them money. Maybe Candace owned them money. Who knows? But if they're really smart enough to keep stories straight, maybe that's why Grandma took off. And they haven't kept their stories straight. That's the problem. They haven't kept their stories straight. Their stories have changed 100 times. Even from the 911 operator, the story changed. So I'm kind of lending a lot of thought into my latest theory. I know I changed my theories a little here and there, but I don't know. After watching this, I'm going to go with this latest theory that Candace was just nowhere on site, and that's what they're covering up.
That his first reaction would be call the cops. Because every time the cops have been out there before that, it wasn't to serve and protect. It was to arrest and detain. I'm not saying that Candace is involved here. I'm not saying Don's involved here. I'm just saying it just doesn't add up to me. And when things don't add up, I need more information.
Yep.
Right.
Coming up, Candace and Don are here.
I
They're going to
agree.
give their first national television.
And that was it. The rest comes tomorrow. I know, Lawn Chair Mafia. You know I'm going to hear shit for that one. Oh, Laura's thinking about us. Whoop. Wrong one. Hold on. Oh. You know what I'm saying, though? Or maybe Grandma's part of the, lawn chair mafia. You never know. Why not be totally truthful if it means finding Summer Wells? Again, towns, many, many people will lie to cover something up, not realizing what they're doing. That's not out of the norm. You know, why did you steal? I'll give you the best example I can give. A child who has a food addiction, okay? You ask them 100 times, why did they eat in their room? And they lie to you. Why did they lie to you? Because they don't want you to know that they ate. So some people would say, what's the big deal that he ate? Well, if you're a food addict, you're an addict. And your first initial instinct is to lie because you're embarrassed. You have to cover up your lie. And a simple thing as, why'd you eat in your room? I don't know, because I felt like it, is an answer that a normal kid would give. Or something along those lines. But an addict is going to find 50 reasons why it's okay they ate in their room while they lie to you. It's just the way it is. That's why they're covering it up. Does anyone remember maybe 2 months ago, someone on a panel had spoke with the Wells said Candace and Grandma had stood at the house and watched Mafia take Summer? No, I never heard that. Launch hair Mafia, now you have to be condescending, pretentious, and pretend that you're rich. Good point. And the grandma couldn't deal with this having lost. No, I don't agree with that, just me, at all. I don't agree with that. Just like I said from day one, I think Grandma's guilty. I think Grandma knows something. Grandma may not know who took Summer or what happened to Summer, but I think Grandma and Candace's story is bullshit. That's why I tell the truth. I agree with you, but when you're an addict, you do think differently. Addicts don't think like normal people. They think about covering shit up. They think about, how do I cover this? If you're not going to be totally transparent to begin with, you're going to lie. And then you're going to have to lie to cover up a lie to cover up a lie. As an addict, we've all done it. We have. So as you get older in life, you realize just be transparent about everything and take your consequences. Whatever your consequences are, they are. But take your consequences. Candace is a child. You're dealing with a child's brain. Grandma knows something. Something is hurting and they will numb with food. Absolutely. But they won't tell you that. They're embarrassed. They won't admit it. It's just the way it is. And whether it's food addiction, drug addiction, any kind of addiction, stealing addiction, any addiction, you're going to lie about it because you're embarrassed. You don't want to admit it, because if you admit it, then you admit to yourself there's something wrong with you. So it's easier to lie to yourself and everybody else. You're right. See, I had that theory too, Vanessa. Put them under pressure. Do something. Not everyone agrees. And legally, there's nothing they could do because they haven't found anything. That's the other thing. I also start lending credence to the fact that I kind of think that the cops know that they're lying, but they don't know what they're lying about. They owe drug money and had to trade Summer. I don't think it was a trade. I really don't. I don't think it was a trade like that. Could it have to do with drugs? Abso-fucking-lutely. But something in my gut, like literally something in my gut tells me that Summer was taken, and Don and Candace didn't know she was going to be taken. However, I keep saying that Candace was not anywhere in sight, and now I don't think Grandma was either. But I said the same thing to Joe Murray, Vanessa. I said, why aren't they arrested? Bring them in for questioning. Put them in an interrogation room and interrogate the fuck out of them. Someone will crack. Do it like they did in the old days. You can't do it anymore. So, but yeah, I had that same line of questioning. And then I got all the shit, well, I thought you knew the law. You should know you can't do that. Well, they've done it till now. They've done it till recently, where they put people in an interrogation room and just fucking, talk to them until they crack. They don't do it anymore. I know I launch they just don't do it anymore. Defunding of police, not giving police enough leeway. They don't do it. I don't care anything about drug addictions, Justice Summer. Yeah, okay, but Vanessa, that theory puts a lot of people behind bars. Really hate to probably never know what really happened that day. That's how they got Chris W. That's how they got a lot of people, is you put them in an interrogation room and you interrogate the fuck out of them. until they crack, period. No questions asked. They did exactly. They did it to Chris Watts. Why not do it to them? I don't get it. Someone who knew those dogs were there could have made friends with the dogs over a period of time. Or, let me tell you something else. Jamie, you just brought up another reason why I believe my latest theory is right. And my latest theory is just a version of my other theories. Let's say the dogs were barking. Mom wasn't there. She wouldn't have heard the dogs bark. Grandma wasn't there. She wouldn't have heard the dogs bark. Nobody was on fucking campus to hear the dogs bark. That's why I think they weren't there. Thank you, Vanessa. But that's why I think they weren't there. Will you please give us your reaction and commentary to David Dobson's news clip? I have not seen David Dobson's news clip. Where is it? Do we know to what extent they have pressured them? Not a lot. They haven't brought them in for questioning. They claim they've done a lot, but no. They need to do a Chris Watts thing. I think it's because someone knows them and the property. Or they weren't there. Jody Sue said she heard dogs bark. They would react if the dogs bark. That's why I don't think they were there. I think the dogs probably did react, and I don't think they were there. Look, when I lived in Iowa, my kids were very young, but I had a friend whose kids were 15, 11, and 3, okay? The 11-year-old would babysit the 3-year-old, and I would say to Brad, are they out of their minds? An 11-year-old cannot babysit. Well, in the state of Iowa, an 11-year-old can babysit. And to me, I thought it was absolutely ludicrous and dangerous, but they lived in a very small town. The population was probably 500 people max, maybe. And, one of these cornfield towns in Iowa. And I couldn't even imagine leaving an 11-year-old with a 3-year-old. That to me was asking for trouble. Well, that 11-year-old is now 23 and the 3-year-old is now 14, 15, whatever. And I still couldn't imagine leaving an 11-year-old, but her sons were about that age. So she probably thought there was nothing wrong with leaving her boys with Summer while she left. I'm telling you, I really think that's what happened. It's normal for small towns, exactly. I really haven't listened to Jody Sue at all. So I can't listen to her voice. I've tried listening. I couldn't do it. See, Goldie did it at 12 in Iowa. Work in Beanfield. 14, drove my truck to school 4 miles away. Exactly. It's very normal. Coming from New York, I thought it was absolutely insane. Or even South Florida. How do you leave an 11-year-old alone? What if there's a fire? What if somebody broke in? But it's very normal there. I'm saying, but just me, they wouldn't have heard the barking if they weren't there. Don was saying the dogs only bark at certain times, but if nobody was there to hear the dogs, they wouldn't have known. So, let me hold on, I want to look at something. Okay, in Tennessee, there's no legal age for staying home alone, but there is a suggestion in some states. It's 8. At 8 years old, you can stay alone. But according to Tennessee courts, children under the age of 10 shouldn't be left at home without supervision. So home alone at age 10. So a 10-year-old can babysit. Think about that. A 10-year-old can babysit in Tennessee. So that tells me that their boys were older. Their boys were old enough to babysit Summer. Think about that. There's no reason why she wouldn't have left. I really am a firm believer in that. No reason why she wouldn't have left. The boys were old enough to babysit. The dogs were not there and they were all gone. Yeah, I don't believe that. I think the only person that wasn't there was her. I didn't leave my kids alone at 15, let alone 11. I'm like too paranoid. But is she going to say that she left a 5-year-old alone, even though she wasn't alone? No. Could she have said that the boys were babysitting? Yeah, she could have. But that's not a story that would have gone over well. So, yeah. I think there's something to that, honestly. Good night, hounds. I really think there's something to that. So, but again, that's just a personal opinion. I can't say I'm right. It's just a personal opinion. In Texas, there's no minimum age to babysit. But again, with CPS coming, she's not going to tell them that. When you got CPS coming, you're not going to say the truth. You're just not. CPS, you're going to lie. Definitely more than 2 minutes. That's what I'm saying. I really believe that that is her lie. That's the lie that she's covering up. Did anyone see a syringe by Candace's leg in the summer milk jug photo? No. That was the law in London. I live in upstate New York. My son, who's 10, babysits sometimes, but I have cameras. See, there you go. 10 years old babysits. I personally would never. That's just me. But everybody's kid is different, you know? Some kids can, some kids won't. I agree, Goldie. Candace needs to be honest all around. But once you start a lie like that, you can't take that back. You got to keep the ball rolling. But she said the things in accordance to what CPS would want to hear. So it's very interesting. I would have left mine alone. They would have caused a riot. Yeah, mine too. If a kid is really missing, she should just fess up and she was sucking it in the garage. I totally agree, Karen. Totally agree. Or may not have been there. Maybe she went for a ride. Maybe there was nobody there at the time. We don't know. I agree with that too. But again, we're dealing with a child. We're dealing with a child's mentality. We're not dealing with an adult mentality. We're dealing with a child's mentality. And people need to remember that. This is a child's mentality. When I was divorced, my 14-year-old took care of my 6 and 8-year-old for 2 weeks until my mother moved up to my town. At that time, I had no other options. It's a person, but 14 is older than 11. 14 is a big difference than 11. You know, when my kids were 14, I would run to the store. You know, if I had to get cigarettes or something, I'd leave them alone, so I'd run to the store. Something like that. You know, but I don't know. I agree. Just admit you're a meth head something. Candace's story is truthful. I feel a mom would have stayed to support her. And everybody hit my thumbs because everyone's telling me that's how you get in the algorithm. So everyone hit thumbs. I don't care if it's up or down. Doesn't matter to me. You call it take responsibility for your actions. But what teenagers really take responsibility for their actions? Do you think Candace grew up in a wonderful home? No. Do you think Candace grew up in a, you know, you must be responsible, you must do the right thing, you must do that? Of course she didn't grow up like that. There's no way she grew up like that. She grew up in the worst of the worst. So you can't expect somebody who didn't grow up correctly to act correctly. She doesn't know any different. She was probably beat as a child. She's beat as an adult. She's broken down as an adult. In all actuality, she was a fucking baby machine. I mean, how many kids does she have? 8? She's 39 years old. She's already popped out 8 kids. She's a fucking baby machine. You know, Don wanted her to be a baby machine. Every year she got pregnant. You know, that's not a woman who cares about herself. She doesn't care about her kids in a sense, you know. She was a baby machine. You can't forget that. One of the mods grabbed Laura the news interview with Don Dobson and the Summer Wells case. Just putting YouTube search. All right, hold on. Hold on. All right, so the person that texted and said, "Do most people suck dick for dope?" It's an expression and a line of, it's just an expression for addicts. Oh, you sucking dick for dope. That's why I say it. Not everyone that does dope sucks dick for it, but it's an expression of addicts. That's why I say it a lot, or use that expression. So that was for the person on Facebook. All right, I am looking up David Dobson. David Dobson. Live interview with Summer's family friend on Unmasked. Addicts who don't have money will do anything for a fix. Absolutely. So what you're saying, Laura, Candace is illiterate. A lot of people didn't grow up in a nice home or nice neighborhood, but yeah, I'm saying that Candace's mentality is that of a 15-year-old. That I am saying, yes. Family friends says parents, brothers of Summer Wells have had difficult times since her disappearance. That one? Hey, Kim, which one am I looking for? Or you'd rub your grandma for dope, meaning no morals. Exactly. I wouldn't say you rub your grandma, though. Cinnamon, is that the one I'm looking for? The one on WJHL? Okay.
Amy, thank
Hold on.
So we want to point out here that TBI says the Wells family has been very cooperative with investigators throughout their search efforts.
Friends of the family tell us they're doing their best to keep their spirits up on day 9. News Channel 11's Bianca Murray joins us from the Beach Creek community where Summer was reported missing.
Bianca, how do friends say the family's coping with this?
Well, Josh and Sarah, a family church friend says that it's been really difficult, especially on Summer's 3 older brothers, and they're coping with the negativity spreading both online and in person.
Yesterday, took them to the putt-putt golf course here in Kingsport, and just to try to let them have a peaceful day away from the search and rescue teams going on their property and the agents coming up. There was someone who made a comment that wasn't very polite. And
Dotson was called to the Wells property the night Summer went missing.
We definitely wanted to have a church family there with them.
He says the family is having a hard time coping without Summer.
Mom is devastated. Mom does not want to leave the house. She, like, if Summer comes back, if she happens to wander back up, I want to be here. I can't imagine what they're going through, and they're just parents that they want their daughter back, and you have these 3 young boys, and they want their younger sister back.
Dotson says he has a nightly ritual praying for Summer's return.
I sit out at night as the sun sets, and I play a song for Summer.
Josh, family friends ask that the community continues to pray for the Wells family and for Summer's safe return, and keep the family in their thoughts during these difficult times. Reporting live in Beach Creek, I'm Bianca Murray for News Channel 11.
Right, Bianca, thank you very much. And to all.
All right, what was I supposed to be watching for in that? See, Kasha, I don't think it was an accident. I'm really getting the vibe that Candace was nowhere in sight, and neither was Grandma, and they left the kids alone. But I don't know what I'm looking at. Cinnamon, tell me what I'm looking for. Take a putt-putt golf and write David to see if they noticed you taking Summer. That's my thoughts. It seems the boys never seen you, or I doubt they would have come home. What? You take a putt-putt golf and write David to see if they noticed you taking Summer. Oh, you think he took Summer? Nah, I didn't get that impression at all. I never got that impression at all. I just played the whole thing. Yeah, I'm not seeing that. I don't think he took her. I just don't. He's just a local tripper. Yeah, I think he took the boys away because, you know, when has Don and Candace ever taken the boys miniature golfing? I would say probably never. I would say the boys probably sit in the house more than anything. And yeah, I wouldn't look too into that. I really wouldn't. I don't see anything wrong with that. I just don't. I know a lot of people would disagree with me, but I just don't. I don't know why you would look into that. And I'm not saying the church is good. I think the church is fucking whacked. But I don't know. I think he looked like a stoner, but I don't see anything wrong. Him shaking his head no about wanting her home. I think you're looking too into stuff. It's just my opinion. Cringe at how this make people from the South look. We are not all idiots. Definitely not. I've met lots of extremely intelligent people here. And I'm in as deep south as you can get. I'm further south than Tennessee. Yeah, I don't think he has anything to do with it. I think he was just doing the right thing for boys. He definitely gave hippie vibes, no doubt about it. He's probably a stoner. But, yeah, no. I didn't get a vibe from him like that at all. The other guys from the creepy people I have from that creepy ass church, but not him. I really didn't get a vibe from him at all. And there's plenty of people around my state that live that same way. Yeah. You're a stoner? Lots of stoners. But, yeah, nah, I just don't. So, but I do have to get off. Phoenix has physical therapy. Dayton's birthday's tomorrow. I got to get some stuff. Dayton has a date on his birthday with his new girlfriend. So we have to do dinner tonight, not to interrupt his date. How many times do criminals insert themselves into the crime? Yeah, Cinnamon, you're right. I just didn't get a vibe off that guy. I didn't. I really didn't. I think he was just doing the right thing. I'm allergic to church. I fall flat when it comes to church. So, but yeah, I don't know. I just didn't get a vibe like that. I really didn't. I'm in Texas. That is, Alabama is. I am way south. I'm further south than Tennessee. So, all right. I got to get ready, though. Phoenix has therapy. And I will see you guys later. I may be on tonight. I'm waiting for my wax to get here because I am officially out of wax. So, I will see you guys later. And that's it. Have a wonderful day. I hope you guys enjoyed. Hopefully, I won't get cut. If I do, I have 2 other channels. But That's it. I'm pretty sure